Hey everybody, it's Jimmy and Bill. So here's a good one. Did we ever talk about this subject before?
I don't think so.
All right.
I was told I have to be a little spicy today, so.
No, even top earning Americans say they're living paycheck to paycheck. Yes, that's what we're talking about.
Okay.
So it's true. A lot of people are working paycheck to paycheck. I know a handful of people that right now are struggling. Okay, and some of them, to me, it doesn't matter if you make $20,000 a year or $1 million a year. At the end of the day, it all depends on what you spend a month.
Yeah, and typically people spend to what they make, and which is probably the premise of this article.
Don't listen to him. don't listen to him. We don't know what the article says, so let's just continue watching. In the meantime, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel. It's greatly appreciated.
I told you, you said I had to be spicy today.
No, for that, you go ahead, start reading. Go for it.
All right. High-income consumers are spending more on family expenses and discretionary spending. A majority of Americans say they are living paycheck to paycheck, including high earners.
True.
As of January, 62% of U.S. consumers say they lived paycheck to paycheck, including 48% who earn more than $100,000 a year, and 36% of those annually earning more than $200,000 a year, according to a recent report by data and analytics platforms PMYMTS.
Okay, let's stop right there. How many homes have sold right now and the payments are between $3,000 and $4,000 a month?
A majority.
A majority. Plus, throw in insurance the way it is now.
That's what I'm kind of including the insurance with all that.
But in taxes too?
Yeah.
You know, so like I did a house yesterday and the guy's taxes is $26,000 or $28,000 a year.
That was that ginormous.
but his insurance is like 20 or 30 grand a year. But the reason why I was there was doing, an inspection, and he's trying to find insurance that's affordable.
Right.
If he had endless amount of money, he'd be like, okay, whatever. Just tell me how much it is and I'll pay for it.
Right.
But he was actually concerned about the cost of insurance for this house. Yeah, it's a multi-million-dollar house, but actually got lost in the house a few times.
Yeah.
That's how big it was.
Yeah. That place was huge.
It was.
You showed me a picture. This was a ridiculously large house. Beautiful, but big.
Hey, do you guys like big houses like that? Do you want a big house? I couldn't live in a big house like that.
No.
Once you're hitting 6, 7, 8,000 square feet.
Like, yeah. What are you going to do in there?
And there's only 2 people that live there.
I remember you said that.
The nicest people in the world. Super, super nice. But the house is so big. I'm like, how do you find your wife if she's in the other place?
Like find my iPhone or something to track your spouse.
Right, we're going off base. Go for it.
The reasons for living paycheck to paycheck are different between the different earning levels. While low-income consumers cited insufficient income as a top factor, high-income consumers reported that family expenses are the top reasons they are living paycheck to paycheck, followed by non-essential spending. Among the highest earners, millennials and people living in cities are more likely to live paycheck to paycheck.
So it's true. And I think one of the reasons is the younger crowd, the kids, are leaning on their parents more. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They are. They're leaning on their parents more, for support, because it's so expensive out there for rent, food. Some of them.
It is.
A lot of them that are buying houses, they're borrowing down payments or a gift, from their parents for the down payment.
Yeah, but at least if you buy the house, you're locking in a majority of your expenses, outside of maybe a little growth on the insurance side of things, and some repairs, but you're locking in, some of your expenses because that's fixed now.
Right.
Versus rent, which is going to go up every year.
Right. I mean, that's true. But, taxes, insurance go up too. So.
But then they go up on your rental because the owners of those homes are not going to just, it's going to get paid forward. So it's going to continue to go up equally across the board there.
Go for it. Where are you?
High-income earners are less likely to cut back on discretionary spending, even if prices are higher compared with lower earners. Recreation, personal care, and everyday transactions comprise of an average 28% of high earners' budgets, according to this long survey of 4,285 U.S. consumers carried out between January 9th and January 16th.
It's true. I mean, they're spending, they're still spending money on vacation and everything, and people that don't make a lot of money, they're at the supermarket and they're using coupons, or like in Publix, we have BOLOs, you buy one, get one free.
Yep, you hit your BOGOs.
Or they're going to Sam's Club or something and buying in bulk to save some money.
Absolutely.
So they might not be doing that, but, they are starting to say, hey, whoa, what's going on here,
Exactly. 17% of these same high earners who make $200,000 annually and above said they have not saved consistently over the past years. So it goes back to what you and I have talked about a lot. It's just making sure that you save some money, because you don't know when the rainy day is coming.
Yeah, because like we said before, it doesn't matter if you make, $20,000 or $1 million. It all depends on your monthly outcome. You might be making $20,000 and maybe you're paying, $500 a month in rent. You're renting a room, and these people own a house and they're paying, $5,000 a month and mortgages, Well, okay, so basically the impact of inflation on this. While housing costs makes up a sizable portion of expenses for all the groups, housing is a major pain point for lower income earners. That's what we were just talking about.
We said that, yep.
Surging home prices and high mortgage rates have put the major strain on the housing market, which we know it did.
That. Yep.
Okay, it's destroying the housing market, and they don't realize how bad they're destroying it. In March, the median sale price for a home rose 4.8% from the year earlier to a record $420,000, $423.21, according to Redfin data. And in all 50 of the largest U.S. metropolitans, median home prices either rose or stayed flat in March, but none of them fell. I want to talk about that a little bit.
Okay.
Everybody's saying prices are dropping, prices are dropping, prices are dropping. I think the prices, as of right now, I see prices dropping. Like if you go onto Zillow and pick some areas, depending on the area, you'll see price reduction, price reduction, price reduction. But a lot of those houses were overpriced in the first place.
Right. Price reduction is different than prices coming down.
But according to this, from a year ago, prices still rose.
Correct. That's what I mean. There's a big difference between a price reduction and the prices of homes coming down.
Go ahead.
So as an example,
give an example.
Let's say we're going to use $400,000 as a baseline. If your property is listed at $450,000, and we'll say that it's $50,000 over what you should have listed it at in the first place. It sits on the market, price reduction, price reduction, price reduction. That's not a price reduction. It's the price of the house isn't coming down of the appraised value. It's coming down to what the market is asking for.
But a year earlier, according to this, it was 4 to 5% lower. So instead of 400,000, maybe it was worth 385 or 390.
Because year over year, we gained anywhere between 3 to 5%.
Now, it's strongly possible that this whole thing is going to change and prices will come down.
Yep.
But as of right now, when we're reading this, the average rate for a 30-year fixed mortgage remained above 7% for the past month, which I think when this article came out, but it's still true.
Yep.
Renters are doing only slightly better. The national median price for apartment in March was $1,987, according to rent.com latest report. Rental costs in March were 21.78%, or $373 higher than they were. Wait for it. It's probably going to be
at the same time 4 years ago.
At the same time 4 years ago. Meanwhile, overall inflation has popped up to 21% since 2020, prior to the onset of the pandemic. Okay, so like this ain't, let's talk about this a little bit, and you tell me, I think I'm getting this right. They're saying inflation's down to 3.2% from a year ago.
Yep.
Okay, so hey, right now prices are rising, say 3.2%. So whatever you bought a year ago, depending on the item, it rose 3.2% on average. But if you say, hey, what was that price of that item 4 years ago or 3 years ago, it could have rose 20%.
20, 30%.
Yeah. So inflation is a killer, but go for it.
All right. PMNTS found that just 18% of wage earners overall said that their incomes have kept up with inflation compared to with 27% of high earners.
That's still low.
That's very low.
18%?
18%.
Kept up with inflation?
Yeah, I mean, this was a relatively small pool group in a short time because it was only a couple days, they said, but and then 4,000 some odd people responded, but still, that's pretty low. Because I've just seen a lot, I've talked to too many people, and you guys let us know what you think. If your wages, did you get a raise? Has it been keeping up with inflation over this last, let's say 12 months? Be curious. Wage increases have largely outpaced inflation in recent years. Okay, with real average hourly earnings climbing 4.2% year over year in March compared to an annual pace of inflation at 3.5% that month. Interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah. So, well, but maybe I'm wrong on this. So let's say wages are increasing, right?
Yeah.
But what about all the other years where they weren't? And everything, like, we'll take housing as an example. Housing's gone up, 40%. Your wages didn't go up 40%.
No, like they're saying, like if something...
And that's a drastic example, obviously, but...
But it's true. If, say, your overall the last 3 years, 4 years, you went up 10%.
Right.
But if the things cost you 20% more...
20% more, then...
You're still upside down.
Yeah. What will happen to home prices if inflation stays high? Here's what some experts think. The unemployment rate remains low at 3.9% according to the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. On the flip side, inflation is at 3.5 to 1.5% higher than the Federal Reserve target rate. Rates for car loans and mortgages are much higher than they were a few years ago as well.
Yeah, the car loans are stupid. Like, people are paying $1,000 a month car payments, $1,200.
Well, the prices, the loans are starting to, you see in all the ads now.
Well, yeah, because
they can't get the cars moved.
Yeah, because nobody could afford them anymore.
They're so high.
And everybody's giving up their cars, and there's not enough repo people to go get the cars. There's literally a shortage of repo people. So if
There's
you guys,
a job.
There's a job. That's a youngster's job, repoing. But they're very, very short-handed. Everybody's cars are like, I can't afford this payment. Why'd you buy it in the first place? Go.
Because of this, some home buyers are finding it more difficult to afford a home since the average 30-year mortgage rate is over 7%. If you want to purchase a home, you may wonder whether you should wait for rates to drop. However, you should be aware of what could happen if inflation rates remain high.
What's your opinion on that? Wait for rates to drop.
Please no. Here's why. The very, very short version of why. What we said, and this article even said, is home prices are still continuing to increase year over year. So if you wait for the interest rates to drop, your house is you're paying anywhere between 3 to 5% more for the house in a year. I don't think too many people, myself included, think that interest rates are going to come down any significant number. If you need a house, you need a house.
Right. If you can't afford a house, you can't afford a house.
Right.
If you feel uncomfortable about taking out a mortgage and having, a $3,000 or $4,000 payment, don't do it.
But I understand that, maybe losing a 0.5% is going to change your payment a couple $100 a month. And I understand that. And that makes sense to me. But
it's not like the Fed's cut a 0.25% and the rate drops a 0.25%.
Right. That's not how it works.
It doesn't work like that.
No.
It's based on 10-year Treasury.
Right.
But at the same time, you might be waiting a really long time. And in my opinion, the 3% days are over.
I don't see 3% coming back. I mean, come on, we didn't. At no time in history, to my knowledge, did we ever have that, where we were at 0, 1, 2, and 3% interest rates.
No, it was because of the pandemic. And the whole thing, too, is...
And to think that that's going to come back, I just don't see it.
And if the Feds start cutting aggressively, we're in trouble. Yes. That's the only reason they're doing it. If they don't get... Their goal is 2%. If they start cutting before they reach their goal, they know something we don't. Technically, we know what it is, but we're in trouble.
Right. So it's just not going to happen. They've even, the last Fed meeting, they said that there's most likely not going to be any major cut in the rate this year. That doesn't, now, you have to understand, that doesn't mean that the interest rates aren't going to fluctuate up and down. Okay, because like you said, just because the Fed doesn't cut doesn't mean that that actually affects the interest rates. And I think we saw a little bit of a drop. I know it went straight up for a minute, and then we saw a little bit of a drop. So it doesn't work like that.
So what it says, what happens if inflation stays high?
Well, if inflation stayed, I was like, well, I thought it was a question to me. I was like, wow.
That's what it says. What happens if inflation stays high?
Yeah.
What does it say?
Here's what can happen to home prices if inflation remains elevated, according to the experts.
Okay, you're not an expert. So what does
Home
the expert
prices,
say?
I want to see what the article says.
All right.
Home prices could rise.
Duh. All right.
Higher inflation means higher mortgage rates, which means lower housing affordability conditions, says Robert Dees, chief economist at National Association of Home Builders, NAHB. Research finds that at today's mortgage rates and today's home prices and household income levels, only a quarter of American households can afford a typical home.
That's true.
Dees isn't the only economist who thinks home prices could remain elevated. Brad Dilleman, chief economist at RPM Living, an investment and management company, believes a lack of inventory could drive prices up.
So, okay, that I disagree with because the inventory is blowing up in a lot of places.
I wouldn't know if I'd use the word blowing up, but it's increasing.
Are we at pre-pandemic levels yet?
No.
Are we close to it?
Getting there.
Okay, because
Getting there.
There's more and more homes going.
Yeah.
You know.
So remember, we haven't had a balanced inventory market in a really long time, nationally, in a really, really long time. We're still in that 3.2 months of inventory, but we are slowly but surely starting to increase, and then different markets are different.
All right, today's home prices are increasing in part because they're literally little listing inventory. I don't believe that anymore, which has greatly benefited the new home builders. They're building a lot.
They are building a ton.
So the builders got caught with their pants down during the last crash.
Right.
And now they're being a lot more cautious. So what they're doing is, at least in this area, they're going away from 3,000 square foot homes, 3,500 square foot homes, and they're going to smaller homes. You know? So, you know, could home prices remain flat? Yeah, they could remain flat.
Maybe.
Could they weaken? Yeah.
Maybe a little. It kind of goes back to what the Fed was saying. You know, overall, this year we may have a flat year, which wouldn't be a bad thing, honestly.
No.
You know, and even if you tick back just a touch, you know, obviously we can't do these numbers and it's all speculative until the end of the year, and we run the numbers for housing units sold and then, you know, lists and all that stuff. But it wouldn't be a bad, I mean, honestly, it just wouldn't be a bad thing if we stayed relatively flat, you know, for the year.
No, the whole thing too is I personally, in my opinion, I think the housing market is going to crash in a sense. Before I wasn't saying that, but now I'm, you know, there's a lot of signs out there. Things aren't good because everything I feel is being propped up until the election. I think no matter who is president, you know, I think things are going to hit the fan.
Oh, they're getting whoever takes over as president, not so we get political, but
yeah,
they're getting handed a bag of
doesn't matter
junk.
Who it is.
Yeah, it doesn't matter who it is.
You know, right now, they're still spending stimulus money.
Yeah.
They're still spending that money. They have it in reserves, you know. And now, you know, if the tax cuts go away, the big ones, I'm not going to get into
Don't get down the...
I'm not going to get into that. Okay. But, I mean, if taxes go up and inflation remains high and... you know, and people start losing their jobs, we're in a world of hurt.
Yeah.
And I think with that, and you know, 4 out of 5 people do say it's a bad time to buy a house. That's a statistic that just came out last week. 4 out of 5. Tell us what
unless you don't have a house and a place to live. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah.
Like, statistics, you can be, like I said, I like to see the numbers. We're still on track with it depends, I guess it's perspective. Right time to buy a house, not a right time to buy a house. That is completely, and I've said, I don't care what kind of market it is. Some people, it's a good time to buy a house, and some people, it's not a good time to buy a house. If you're getting relocated and you have to buy a house, it's probably a good time to buy a house. You know, that's what I'm saying. It's very so subjective.
There's no perfect time to buy a house,
right.
But there's better times, and it depends on where you are in the country. Some places are more stable. Some places, are freaking.
I have a client that relocated, and they said the spot that they relocated to, it was like the pandemic all over again. Houses are sitting on the market for 1, 2, 3 days, and it's like mass hysteria there.
Really?
I was like just in shock. I was in shock because I didn't know, so. I want to do a little more research on it.
Yeah, tell us what you think about this article. I found it really, really interesting. We're not going through the whole thing, but give us your opinion. In the meantime, if you like this article, check this one out. This is a really good article. Hopefully, I'm pointing to the right direction. I think I am. And do me a favor, consider subscribing. It really helps out the channel, and it's greatly appreciated. Thank you, and we'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.
See you on the next one.